Good YouTube, it's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, we got some new news as two-division undefeated world champion, WBO reigning middleweight world champion, superstar boxer, Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade, 31 wins, no losses, no draws, 19 wins by way of knockout, 33 years of age, 6 foot tall with a 74-inch arm reach. Demetrius Andrade is now going to petition the World Boxing Organization, the WBO, better known as, to become the mandatory for four-division world champion, Mexican superstar boxer, who is now the undisputed super middleweight world champion, Saul Canelo Alvarez, who is widely considered by many to be top 3, #1 best pound-for-pound fighter in the world and the face of the sport of boxing. With that said, Canelo Alvarez, 57 wins, 1 loss, 2 draws, 39 big wins by way of knockout, 31 years of age, 5'8" with a 70-inch arm reach. Canelo Alvarez has a history with Demetrius Andrade, and unfortunately that history never led to an actual fight. Since they were at junior middleweight, Demetrius Andrade had been petitioning to face off against Saul Canelo Alvarez. When they were at middleweight, Canelo Alvarez was 1 fight away from becoming undisputed at middleweight and creating history at middleweight, and he opted not to go in the direction of fighting Demetrius Andrade when he was the unified and held all 3 belts. He held the WBC, the IBF, and the WBA, and the Ring Magazine title. All he needed was Demetrius Andrade's WBO title to become undisputed. And well, Canelo Alvarez, he decided to go all the way up to light heavyweight and face off against Sergey Crusher Kovalev, oddly enough, for Sergey Kovalev's WBO title, instead of fighting right in his own division against Demetrius Andrade for undisputed. So it never happened. And we know most recently, after Canelo Alvarez, he beat Billy Joe Saunders, right? For, oddly enough, Billy Joe Saunders' WBO title, Demetrius Andrade was in attendance. Now, Demetrius Andrade was supposed to fight Billy Joe Saunders for Billy Joe Saunders' WBO title at middleweight, but Billy Joe Saunders tested positive for a banned substance that saw him have to be removed from the fight. And Demetrius Andrade fought a replacement opponent for Billy Joe Saunders' title. He was stripped of the title. So he never got the opportunity to fight Billy Joe Saunders. And so then, you know, he was looking to fight, you know, Canelo Alvarez, Billy Joe Saunders. He was unable to secure that fight. Well, they ended up fighting each other, obviously, Billy Joe Saunders and Canelo Alvarez, and he didn't get the opportunity to fight either guy. And after the fight, after we saw Canelo Alvarez stop and knock out Billy Joe Saunders and break his eye socket, you know, Demetrius Andrade, he crashed Canelo Alvarez's post-fight press conference, and, you know, he called out Canelo Alvarez, and that's when Canelo Alvarez famously went viral when he told him, "I know, payday, you want payday. I know what you want," and he told him to get out of here, right? So we know that's that famous quote, and that's where that came from. Well, Canelo Alvarez is now undisputed at super middleweight after he beat Caleb Sweethand Plant for his IBF title, and Canelo Alvarez is a fight that everybody is looking to secure. Okay, only one man beat Canelo Alvarez on record, and that is Floyd Mayweather. And everybody, we know Erislandy Lara unofficially beat Canelo Alvarez. You know, many people felt that way. There's many people that felt that Triple G, Gennady Golovkin beat Canelo Alvarez in their fight, but didn't get the nod. You know, they fought twice. But nonetheless, people are looking to see Canelo Alvarez in with the best opposition. And so he represents also a major payday and an opportunity to, he represents a major payday, and he represents an opportunity, you know, for exposure, right? To replace him as the face of the sport of boxing. So Demetrius Andrade takes the opportunity now to petition, which is very, very odd to me. He takes the opportunity now to petition the WBO to be the mandatory for Canelo Alvarez, when Canelo Alvarez has announced he's leaving the division. Canelo Alvarez and his longtime trainer, well-renowned trainer of the year, Eddie Reynoso, have announced months ago that Canelo Alvarez is going to possibly go up to cruiserweight and campaign at cruiserweight and look to become a 5-division world champion. Okay? This is what they announced months ago at the WBC convention. Now, what's interesting here to note is that Canelo Alvarez beat Billy Joe Saunders. And Demetrius Andrade, like I stated, he went to Canelo Alvarez's press conference and, he called out Canelo Alvarez. And he didn't petition the WBO at that moment to become the mandatory challenger. He waited and let Canelo Alvarez start to negotiate. He started to talk about negotiations with Caleb Plant. Then that negotiations fell through. And when it fell through, Canelo Alvarez was talking about facing off against Dimitri Bivol, light heavyweight WBA world champion, undefeated, Russian star boxer. He started to negotiate with that fight. Then that fell through at a catchweight. Then that fell through. And then he started to renegotiate with Caleb Plant. So Demetrius Andrade had more than enough time to petition immediately following the fight with Billy Joe Saunders, because the way the World Boxing Organization operates, when you move up in weight, they immediately will make you the mandatory. They'll move you ahead of the line, okay? So immediately after the fight, he should have petitioned the WBO immediately to make himself the mandatory for Canelo Alvarez. He waits till Canelo Alvarez unifies the complete division, announces that he's leaving the division, and now says he's going to mandate the WBO. He's going to petition the WBO to be Canelo Alvarez mandatory. Now that Canelo Alvarez is leaving the division, Canelo Alvarez has announced he's not going to fight at 168 anymore. Canelo Alvarez is going to, now he changed his stance and stated that he's going to go to light heavyweight, 175, and he's going to look to unify all the belts at light heavyweight, become undisputed at light heavyweight, starting with, get this, the WBO light heavyweight champion, Joe Smith Jr. Because Artur Beterbiev, he holds the WBC and the IBF. And as I just told you, Dimitri Bivol, he holds the WBA. So now he's stating that he's going to petition the WBO, Canelo Alvarez, that is. He's going to petition the WBO to become the light heavyweight Joe Smith Jr.'s mandatory challenger. And then he's going to look to face off against Artur Beterbiev following that fight. Okay? So that means that Canelo Alvarez has a plan in place for 2022. He's going to look to unify all the belts in under a calendar year once again. This time at light heavyweight, he's going to look to fight Joe Smith. More than likely, Joe Smith has a fight coming up against Caleb Johnson in February. After that, he's going to look to fight Joe Smith in May. Then he's going to look to fight Artur Beterbiev in September, Mexican Independence Day weekend. And then before the year is up, he's going to look to fight Dimitri Bivol around that November, December time, as he did with Caleb Plant. And he'll be undisputed at light heavyweight in under a calendar year. And those are all fights that I believe Canelo Alvarez will win. So with that said, once again, the business part of Demetrius Andrade has eluded him once again. Because you could have petitioned Canelo Alvarez. Instead of fighting the fight that he fought, Demetrius Andrade, he could have fought Canelo Alvarez. He fought Jason Quigley, right? In November. He could, November 5th is when Canelo Alvarez fought Caleb Plant. So he could have fought. He could have waited, right? As soon as Billy Joe Saunders and Canelo Alvarez fought, immediately following that fight, Demetrius Andrade could have petitioned the WBO. He had more than enough time to petition the WBO to become Canelo Alvarez mandatory and then force Canelo Alvarez into a fight. But he waited. And he fought Jason Quigley instead. Now, Canelo Alvarez, he fought Billy Joe Saunders in May for the WBO title. So if he would have petitioned Canelo Alvarez and the WBO in May, by September, he would have been his mandatory and could have pushed for a fight against Canelo Alvarez. No, he sat and waited. Now he's petitioning him months and months later, after Canelo Alvarez unified, he's done with the division. So now Billy Joe Saunders is the option for Demetrius Andrade for the vacant WBO title that Canelo Alvarez has now all but announced that he's going to vacate the belt at super middleweight, and now he'll be the mandatory. We'll see Demetrius Andrade versus Billy Joe Saunders, possibly. As we know, Demetrius Andrade stated that Billy Joe Saunders was one of his main objectives still, even though he lost badly and broke his eye socket, and we haven't seen him since. He's still one of his number one objectives is to fight Billy Joe Saunders. So he wants to fight Billy Joe Saunders. The WBO is going to order it, seeing as though Billy Joe Saunders was the last WBO champion. Demetrius Andrade is the mandatory. They'll fight for the vacant WBO title, right? Well, it's going to be called the interim until Canelo Alvarez officially announced that he's vacating the belt. And then you could possibly see Demetrius Andrade face off against David Benavidez, who's going to fight for the vacant WBC interim or regular title against David Lemieux. Okay, so there's big fights for Demetrius Andrade. But again, the business part on the part of Demetrius Andrade has once again got away from him. Period. But that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notification. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shouts out to the entire LDBC. Shouts out to New Media. Shouts out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share the videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.
Bumgarner, you're watching Blue Blood Sports TV. Wow.